Football made simple. Become great at your craft by finding ways to make it simple for those around you. This is the Coaching 101 podcast hosted by Find a Way Productions with your co-host Daniel Chamberlain and Kenny Simpson. What's up, coaches? This is the Coaching 101 podcast. I am Daniel Chamberlain here with Kenny Simpson. Coach, it's been a while.
It has. I'm glad to have you back. I tried to do all your stuff last episode. I don't know how well it turned out.
I haven't even started editing yet. I'm pretty excited to see how it turned out. For those of y'all that don't know, because you didn't listen to it, you should go back and listen. I was not on the last episode. It was a military weekend for me, and when we recorded on Sunday night, it was pretty easy for me to get home, just stay in the zone. But that was a rather long weekend because football season's in now. So I started at 6 o'clock Friday morning. I didn't go to bed until about 2:30 Saturday morning. And then back up at 4:30 to get, because I run the cooks in my, that's part of my job as a platoon sergeant in the Army now. So I run the mess section. And so I had to get up with them and get things going for breakfast. And so it was just like it was a very long weekend. It caught up to me Tuesday morning. And I think I crawled out of bed at about 10 o'clock. And Kenny had called me multiple times and text and was like, "Hey, buddy." So I'm glad you guys got it recorded. I'll edit it all up.
Yeah, Tony was a good guest, man. He didn't miss out. He's always funny.
Yes, I wanted to talk to him. Like I was excited to talk in season, speed training, because I haven't even listened. I'll see what topics y'all talked about, but I got my own questions, like what the way we're doing things, and so, but opportunity missed. So. Anywho, so if you haven't, go back and listen to that. You can listen to Kenny and Tony have a great conversation, I'm sure. And get away from my voice. But this past week, you had a bye week, right, Coach?
We did. We had the big rivalry week before, so it kind of came at a good time. And then, of course, we had kind of craziness here. I don't know. Sad that schools have like threats made, and so that freaks out. If you're a parent, I understand. You'd be nervous too. So we had school Thursday, Friday, but there weren't maybe many kids here. So it came at a good time for us to have a bye week because we'd planned to give them off 3 days that week anyway. They ended up getting 4 days off. So our kids got a true bye week. So we're going to find out how that works or doesn't work.
I say, take some data points, because you may have, you may make the case for future bye weeks are a lot lighter than usual.
Right. Well, we usually on bye week try to go. We'll lift 3 days and then we'll practice twice. Like we don't go much, but one of our extras we got kind of in a wash. So we're getting game plan in for conference now. Now the games start to matter and we open up with a real tough one. So how did y'all do?
Well, we didn't do so hot. We played and I'm going to make some excuses here because that's what coaches do, right? We played what's probably going to be the 4A state champions. And we are a 3A team. We hung with them for a while. Defensively, offense is just trying to get going. We've got kids coming out of a flex bone mentality and trying to go into this kind of pairing spread to the wing tee, and it looks a lot like what you run, Kenny, but they're just not quite there yet, trying to figure it all out. Quarterback still trying to find that confidence to push the ball down the field, throw those RPOs. He had an interception last week on an RPO, kind of throwing like your peak. We throw it a little wider, and it was just not really a great route, not really a great throw. And now I think he's a little gun shy of throwing those. So, but I think everybody's gonna click real well. We don't get a bye week because we didn't play week 0. So we go straight into district this week, and after that that non-district schedule, districts is looking like we want to be in that schedule because we played some monsters those first 3 weeks.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that pans out. We try to schedule. We're a 4A. We scheduled a 5A. We scheduled another pretty good 4A. We thought we scheduled a 3A, like kind of a variety there of teams that I thought matched our conference demographics. We played a real fast team, and unfortunately, those 3 teams look like they're probably a little down this year. So we don't really know where we are right now. We're going into conference thinking we might be decent, but unfortunately, when you schedule people 2 years out, you don't really know where
Yeah.
they're going to be at that point. And so, so we're gonna find out real quickly on Friday. We play, I think, a really good team, and that'll give us a good idea of where we are.
Awesome. Well, Coach, we'll jump right in here. First, before we do any of the sales stuff, why don't you tell us our quote of the week?
Sure. Quote of the week is coming again from Team Themes Volume 4. So all the Team Themes books are available over at fbcoachsimpson.com. You can go over there and get 1, 2, 3, or 4. This one comes out of Volume 4. It's by Charles Spurgeon. I hope I don't mispronounce his name. But the quote or the theme this week is the word sincerity. So the quote comes from that. It says, sincerity makes the very least person to be more of value than the most talented hypocrite. We try to spend a lot of time with our kids talking about being genuine and being sincere. And a big part of that, obviously, is being honest. And you find out a lot of times there's kids that come in your office that got in trouble and they admit it and move on. That tends to work out a whole lot better than the ones that cover it up. And so we try to
Right.
explain that to our kids of, hey, this is kind of how life works. If you just admit and move on and try to improve, people are probably going to be pretty gracious with you. But if you are somebody that wants to cover it up and blame everybody else and drag what could be a small problem into a big problem, you start to have issues. And I think kids today recognize the value of not wanting to be a hypocrite, to be what they say they are, to do what they say they're going to do, maybe even better than our generation did. So that's quote of the week.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Well, before we go any further, Coach, why don't you tell us a way to simplify football for my staff and my players?
Coaching 101 podcast is sponsored by Findaway Productions. Findaway Productions also sponsors fbcoachsimpson.com for all your coaching needs, with over 30 coaching materials, books, as well as 50 PowerPoints and videos and smaller materials, and the free magazine headsets. Findaway Productions also sponsors offensivecoordinatoracademy.com, all things offense, and defensivecoordinatoracademy.com, all things defense.
This episode is brought to you by Athletic Speed and Movement. At athleticspeedmovement.com, we've taken Del Basquet's 45 years of speed and movement training and put it all in one place just for you. You can get the same training that NFL players have been getting for years, collegiate players have been getting for years, and now high schools across the nation are paying thousands of dollars to bring Del in to install his system, but we've got it online for you. It's time to help your team become faster, not just in the 40, not just their sprint speed, but between the tackles and their cuts while they're chasing down the quarterback. It's time for you to help them become faster everywhere. Jump over to athleticspeedmovement.com. There's an orange button there. Just click it. It says, get the keys to playing faster. You'll get the 3 core movement video from Dell. He's explaining the science behind it, all for just the price of your email. Check it out, athleticspeedmovement.com. What's up, coaches? I want to talk to you for just a few moments about your program. The longer I'm in this profession, the more I understand that efficiency is truly the name of the game. We're talking offense, defense, doesn't matter, right? Eventually, you're going to come down to checking out your efficiency. So I have to ask you, are you doing everything in your program the most efficient way, right? Are you fundraising the most efficient way? Are you representing your players and your program to the public in the best way? Are you planning to build the facilities the most efficient way? If you answered no to any of those, or really even if you answered yes to all of them, and you haven't contacted Mark Bridges at Ace Sports, you're missing a key step. So look, Mark and his team, they are the go-to group for video board and scoreboard installations for your school. They're not just football either. Mark can help you mock up your newest video board for that new stadium, or maybe even your old stadium, right? That's where Mark and the guys come in. And we're not just buying a flashy thing, right? Yes, it's nice. It's pretty neat to have that big scoreboard, that big video board, but you're also, you're investing back into that program. You're investing into that newest fundraiser. Sure, you can keep selling your discount cards, your beef jerky, hosting pie auctions, whatever it is that you like to do. But let's just be honest with ourselves, guys. We're not making enough money for those big ticket items. For the big ticket items like turf, an indoor facility, that's where you need a big ticket item fundraiser. That's what Ace Sports is offering you today. Guys, I've talked to Mark several times now, right? And it always comes down to big school, small school. Right? Well, of course, the big schools can afford that new video board, but the small schools really can't. It's just not true anymore, man. Your school isn't too small, and I promise. Okay, 1A, 2A schools, it doesn't matter. Mark and the guys, they're helping them out. Contact Mark today at mark.bridges@acesports.com and let him come give you a quote. Let him show you and your administration the plan. Now, really, it's the cheat code, right? Let him show you the cheat code that is fundraising with Ace Sports video boards. Tell him Daniel sent you. All right, appreciate that, Coach. Once again, guys, reach out to those people on those ads, whether it's me, whether it's Kenny, Mark, and the guys over with the big video boards. Grab what you can. Use what tools out of the toolbox we give you to make your job easier. I realize not everybody's in a situation to go out and get a video board right now, but it sure is a great thing to get your admin in on. Start planting that seed, and so you can work towards it. Like we say in that ad, no school is too small. You think, nope, my school can't afford that. You are wrong. So reach out to Mark and the guys and let them come talk to your admin and sell you and get you that source of income. Only ad not on there is Jamie's book. Coach, can you tell me about it?
Yeah, the book is called I'm at a Football Game. You can get it on Amazon if you want. You can get it on fbcoachsimpson.com as well. It's over in the materials section. But she's excited about it, just seeing it out. Like, it's out now. That's been fun for her to watch little kids. Basically it's a book that you give for a child, age probably 2 to 12. That when they go to a game, it gives them kind of a seek and find type deal. So buys you probably 30 minutes of peace and quiet a little bit and
For
lets you
sure.
watch the game. And it's been neat to see it out. She's been really excited, getting a lot of Facebook posts from moms that are really enjoying it. So it's available. She's not like me. She doesn't charge very much for her stuff. I think it's worth more. It's like $12. So it's over at fbcoachsimpson.com, or you can get it on Amazon if you want to get it a little bit quicker. I think it's a little cheaper over at my website just because of shipping costs and that kind of stuff. So anyway, I'm at a football game. And if you have a child, it's definitely worth your time to get, because as the seasons go on, just buying some time for them to not be bored out of their mind will help you.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Coach. Um, let's jump right into questions here. So, what we're talking about this week is getting the ball to your playmakers. I think we've probably hit that point where, like you're going into conference play, we're going into our district play. You've seen kind of what your team is. Hopefully, you've found your identity by now. But we also know we gotta break tendencies, and sometimes our identity doesn't put the ball into the best player's hands consistently, right? If you're a great power team, but you have an absolute stud at outside linebacker, an outside receiver, um, you need to figure out a way to get him the ball. And so that's what I want to talk about today. Um, it's real easy to fall in that trap and just give the ball to the running back and run power. But what can those other kids kind of bring to the table for us? So that's going to be our question number one here, Coach, is why is it important to involve all of your best players?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, there's certain offenses that are obviously are more natural at doing this. I think those teams that run the ball tend to always put their best kid at running back, and that kind of makes it easier. Or you may have an offense where you put your best kid at quarterback, and so if you're doing one of those two things, you may not need to listen to the rest of this episode, because those guys are touching the ball every time.
Right.
But if you have other types of players, like Daniel mentioned, an outside receiver, maybe a slot receiver, if you're in the wing tee, maybe a wing back. So you have these other spots that traditionally wouldn't get the ball as much, but they're your best player. So that's what we want to talk about. Or your best player is your running back, but you can't block real well. So now you got to figure out ways to use him in a different way. And so that's kind of where I want to kind of go with this question is, how are we going to make sure that our best guys are touching the ball? So first, I'm not a big fan of like any kid touching the ball 40 times. I think one, that's irresponsible coaching. We're seeing
Right.
that in our conference where, a kid's going to just line up and wildcat and run it every play, and you're just asking for that kid to get hurt. So I am big on, hey, 25, 30 touches is probably a max, a cap. But really on this episode, I want to focus on those other guys, like those guys that are only getting the ball 3 or 4 times that need to be getting it 10 to 12. Those are kind of your other guys. So the first thing I think you need to realize is, one, games are going to be won by your best players or lost by your best players. Unfortunately for us, a lot of times we are limited as a coach with our own scheme. Like, we limit ourselves with our scheme to, this guy plays X, and so X has these rules and all these limits that we have self-imposed. Like, we've put those in there. Why can't the X be off the ball and run jet sweep? Why can't the X move inside? Like, you can do that. You're the guy that makes the rules. You're the coach. So be careful, when you're putting guys in places that we're not putting boxes on them. It's really
Right.
easy to defend you with a D1 receiver if you keep him out on the left side at the outside receiver. You may get me on 2 jump balls, but I can double cover him and take away a lot of other stuff. So you need to have answers for when people are doing that kind of stuff. Okay. Or you got a real good running back and we're going to put 9 in the box. Now what? So you need to have some other things you can do it. I think by involving multiple kids, especially your best kids, you're showing them you realize it's about them, not about you. Like you're showing them, I recognize you're talented. My job is to help you be successful. A lot of times as coaches, we just kind of stick them out there like they're an X or they're an O on a whiteboard. And that's not really how real life works. You probably have certain kids that, hey, they want to be a team player. And watch the NFL, and it's trickling down to college, and it's trickling down to the high school level. If you don't throw the ball to a receiver, at some point there's going to be resentment there, and he's not going to want to block. He might still do it because he's a good kid, but that's not really
Right.
what he wants to do. That's not what he really signed up to do. You're really not using him to the best of his ability. So you need to figure out ways to involve those kids so they buy into what you're doing. That you look like you know what you're trying to do. And then the last thing I've got on this point, I know we got some more coming up, is basically these really talented kids. Sometimes you just need to get them the ball because the plus one, minus one, as coaches, we're always trying to, I know I am, create a plus one or, where I've got an extra blocker for a guy. Like that looks really good on a whiteboard. And we want to try to do that if we can. These great players sometimes can erase that. Like you can throw the ball out there where it's 3-on-3 and they've got an unblocked guy and they might not be able to tackle him, or you got a great running back and they load the box and he can still get you 8 yards to carry. They can sometimes take away what should be common sense. And as coaches, a lot of times we'll go away from that because in our mind, this shouldn't work. Like in our mind, they've got 9 in the box. I shouldn't run the ball here, but I'm getting 6 a carry. I watched the Miami
Right.
Dolphin game this past, which is I want to gouge my eyes out after watching it, with one of the smartest coaches in the NFL. I think Mike McDaniel is a very smart coach who ran the ball 8 times against the Seahawks and threw it 20 times in the first half with a backup quarterback against a defense that wasn't good against the run, and we were getting 6 yards a carry because they loaded the box in quotation marks, and theoretically, getting the ball to Tyreek Hill was what you would do with Tua. Tua didn't play. Instead, we had some cashier from Kroger playing quarterback. And he's a nice kid, and he shouldn't have been thrown under the bus like he was. But what we should have done was play the game as it is. The Dolphins running back is Devontae A-Chain. Stud was getting 6-7 yards a carry running power. Run that more. I don't care what the analytics say, what the front dictates. Call the game as it is. And if your best player can get you yards, keep doing that. I don't think you got to go away from it just because you see something else. Sometimes, and 95% of the time, it's always players over plays. If you can get players in space, we're going to talk about the next couple of questions. If I can get players in space and create advantages, now I'm coaching at a really high level. But the first level of coaching is your best kids need to touch the ball. That's rule one. Then
Yep.
you can advance to other stuff.
Um, I think something you haven't talked about yet is just the kids can be kids, right? And you talked about, just a kid won't keep blocking or he won't keep. If you don't include these playmakers, you're not going to have them to include when you need them. So I think that is it's something we have to consider. We talk about spreading the ball around, and your offense might be just line up and run power, right? I mean, the flex bone exists, the wishbone existed. I mean, I'm sure someone out there still running the wishbone. Um, I still love that offense. I think it's amazing. I don't know why I don't like the flex bone. I do like the wishbone. Don't
Well,
talk
here's
to
the
me.
deal,
I don't.
but it's not a flex bone. I'm not a flex bone guru, but 3 dudes or 4 dudes touch the ball, both wing backs, the fullback and the quarterback. So it's different,
Yeah,
but you are distributing the ball out to 4 guys.
absolutely. Um, but they never threw passes, and so you really were just asking. Generally, kid, you weren't going to put out there. He wasn't going to be very good, right? Because you were just going to ask him to go out there and take a defender out of the box, go out there and block him. But I think I don't want to call today's kids selfish, but they want that why. They want to know, is it even worth me playing offense? If I'm a good athlete and you've just got me going to block that guy over there, they're not as committed to the team picture as we are sometimes, right? And so they may just want to play defense. Now all of a sudden he's just a free safety and you're starting a different kid at wide receiver. So it's too easy to just draw up some pass plays. Kenny, I really like what you said about, you can't get locked into that mindset of my X receiver is always on the ball to the left and he just runs go balls. If that's your best dude. Number one, if your inside receiver is more involved, put your best player at inside receiver. You don't have to have the X be the absolute stud on your team anymore, right? You can move them around. And then, but then be able to break your own rules to an extent. The kids don't need to be confused. You don't need to go out and change things such that your whole offense falls apart. Stick by your offense as much as possible, but you better have something drawn up to get him the ball, or really be talking to the quarterback about throwing that backside route when he always wants to look, to the front side. Get that guy some touches so he stays involved with the team. I also think it's good just because you want the defense to have to practice more. It's pretty darn easy to turn on the film and be like, I track targets. That's one of my very first stats I'd put in when I start breaking down an offense, and it's just, who are they trying to get the ball to? He may not catch any of them, or he may not get any yardage as a running back or whatever, but who is the kid that they're trying to force feed the ball to? And that helps us make a game plan. Like, hey, they're trying to get it to the inside receiver and the running back all night long. Great. We're going to make sure we take those two away and see what else they can do, right? So if you're giving those catches, those routes, those letting those kids touch the ball, the defense has to go out and figure it out a little bit more. All right, they got to figure out, who are we going to try to prioritize stopping this week? And then I think efficiency. Being able to spread the ball around, I think it's going to increase your efficiency based on whatever personnel group you're in, right? And it could be just because of the game plan idea, right? If I only hand the ball off to my number one running back, then guys are going to eventually be able to stop that. So it's going to decrease that efficiency. And I'm a fiend for efficiency when it comes to breaking down my own film. Let's jump to second question here, Coach. How do you build an offense to showcase your best players? Well, you've gone out and done this, right?
Oh yeah, no, this is up my alley here. No, I think the main thing you got to have, and again, I'm not going to preach one offense over the other. Obviously, we've got one that we like a lot, and has been pretty successful for a lot of people. But there are lots of ways you can skin a cat. There's flex bone, air raid on opposite extremes, and then you have everybody that kind of lands in the middle of that. So those are your extremes, and then there's other systems, and then a lot of guys will build their own. They'll kind of match this with this and match this with that. So you do what you think you need to do. Obviously, I've got the one I like, but I think any system needs to be adaptable, and that it allows for you to, like Daniel mentioned, use your playmakers. Every system needs to have the ability to run and throw the ball. Even in flexbone, they do throw it every now and then. And then even in air raid, they do run the ball. And so you need to have the ability to adjust, because year to year, kids are different. And you don't want to be going, I'm going to run a new system because I have different kids. I want to run the same system, but I want to adapt it to what I have. And so that needs to be able to either run pass or versions of them. Like if I'm flexbone, you're not going to go air raid because you got two guys, but maybe I can run some different versions of run that highlight I got a really good fullback this year. So we're going to run a lot more, whatever these plays are. Or we have really good wing backs this year, so rocket toss and all that stuff that's in their offense. Same thing in whatever offense you have. The ability to run it and throw it, and then the ability to change up who runs it and throws it or catches it. Second thing on this one, I think you got to have the ability to move guys around and hide your good ones. Like everyone knows, whoa, that guy's really good. So they're going to, like Daniel just mentioned, they're going to go in the film room. I'm sure that the team we're playing Friday has gone in the film room and they've said, these are their top three players. These are the ways they like to get them the ball. We want to stop this. This is how we're going to stop this. And I'll give you a good example. Right now, our running back has run the ball for 560 yards, okay, in 3 games. Every run he's had has gone to what we would call our strong side. So I'm going to imagine the team we're about to play is, guess what, going to load up the strong side. But guess what else we have in our offense that we haven't shown yet? We can hand the ball to him and run the ball to the quick side. And so you've got to have the ability to move guys around and attack in different places. If you've got a really good receiver, can you get them in a bunch set so they can't just man press them and double cover him? Can you get them on the move and motion? You kind of watch a lot of these. Do you have the ability to move this kid from in the backfield to out of the backfield, to the right, to the left, to a tight bunch, to here, so that the reason you do that is not to look cool. The reason you do that is to create space for that kid and give him the chance to succeed, where a defense can't just say, this is where he is, here's how we're going to stop him. Like, that's the reason you do that stuff. So if you are looking at, okay, we're putting in these little formations and this and that, whatever, questions you need to be asking yourself are why are we doing this? Like, what is this accomplishing? And then that's how you kind of go from there. We want to be able to switch plays. We run buck sweep a lot, and we're going to run buck sweep a lot. We want to be able to run buck sweep with 4 to 5 kids, not just the running back. What about the quarterback? What about our motion guy? What about our wing back going quick side? So can we run our best play, whatever that is, with multiple players? Or if it's throwing it, let's say we throw the snag concept really well. Can we move receivers around where the guy who's being left open by the defense, let's say that we're throwing it and they're leaving the curl open every time. Can we put our best kid out at X so that he runs the curl? Then he catches the ball because he's our best guy. So can we switch guys in positions, or switch routes or runs or tag things to create different advantages to us? Because every defense has strengths and every defense has weaknesses. Once you've identified those, do you have the tools to make sure your best guy is taking advantage of that? So, rule one, we talked about the first question: get your best guy the ball. This question is a whole lot about getting your best guy the ball in the best situation you can get him in. And I think your system needs to be able to do that. Last one I've got on here, mainly for my spread guys or shotgun guys or guys that are multiple or whatever you want to say. This week there's a good chance our quarterback might be out. I'm hoping he might be able to play, but he might be out. If that happens, do you still have ways to get the ball to your best players who might be playing receiver? Like, if number 2 has to come in and it's a big drop down, does that eliminate other kids in your offense? If it does, we need to examine the way we're getting these kids involved. So can your offense function with subpar quarterback play? If it can, then you have a good system. Like, you have the ability to protect. Think about the NFL this weekend. 5 backup quarterbacks came in and won their games because they had a good system. And unfortunately, I'm a Dolphin fan, and our system apparently relies around one guy. When he's hurt, we just suck, which means we don't have, guess what? We don't have a good system. Like, these other 5 guys came in, they had the ability to adjust and win. We came in and threw it 20 times with a backup quarterback and, not surprisingly, lost. So how does your system handle that? Can you handle, crap, this guy's not in at quarterback, this guy's going in at quarterback, can we still involve our other players? There's lots of ways you can do that. You can run jet sweeps with them, you can throw screens to them, you can bring them in the backfield, but can you continue to function with your playmakers if your quarterback play takes a dip? That could be due to weather, that could be due to injury, that could be due to having a young kid who's just having a bad game. Can you function when he's struggling? I think that's the biggest question you face on, do I have a good system or do I just have good players?
I love this question because, number one, you don't have to build an offense anymore. There's so many things out there just to go buy and learn and modify, right? I personally am involved in 3 offenses. I got your gun tee, I got the pistol power offense from Joe Daniel, and then I'm stealing the system that my friend Cameron is running, which he learned being the Bixby freshman OC for years, right? So I'm taking those 3 things and putting them together, and I see strengths and weaknesses in all of them, right? And it's really neat to be able to go through and put them together and use what I like out of all of them, whatever makes sense to me to answer questions, on game night. But so you don't have to build an offense, but you can if you want to. And, you can get into what all you need in that offense. There's a ton. Get the base stuff, but I love what you're saying here, Kenny, and that is you've got to be able to move kids around. People get really stuck in this 2-by-2 mindset. My go ball guy's always on the outside. My speedster's always on the inside. Man, there's just so many different ways to play football nowadays. And look, there's going to be years you don't have those kids. But you don't need to scrap the whole playbook you just built or the whole system you just built because, oh, now I don't have that D1 athlete out there on the outside taking go routes. So I think that's great. That's a great way to think about it is like if I don't have a quarterback, if I don't have my star receiver, if I don't have a running back that makes this thing go, what in my system still survives? Because that might be where you want to focus, right? The ability to just move people and get kids running each other's routes. And I think building that mindset, first of all, within your team of if I say purple hippo, I don't need them all to just know one route. I need kids to start thinking conceptually so that I can switch those routes and now they're doing different things, right? I think it's a great place to be with your kids is when they start really learning the playbook. But it's gonna be in your best interest to be able to do that with the system, be able to swap kids around, and I love it. We try to do that all the time. Every week we have plays that purposely do those things just to make it hard for defense. Last part here, how can you add wrinkles to your offense to get playmakers the ball in different ways?
Yeah, to me, so first question you kind of asked, I view that as kind of like a coaching 101. Best kids need to touch the ball. Number two, this is something you should have probably done before the season started. You built a structure that you thought would support this that will hopefully last every year. Okay. Question three to me now is either a year to year or even a game to game thing. So now you're kind of, okay, we have our system. We know who our players are. Now, how can we do something a little different? And that could be a year to year deal, or that could be like for us, we started conference. So now we're going to bring out some of these little wrinkles. Hopefully, we've got backup quarterbacks in there. So Coach Simpson's son can actually throw a screen. Well, that will help a little bit. But we're going to try to work some of these other things, like you mentioned, wrinkles. And so for me, I think it's all about like the ability to move players. Like it's not that we're going to add in a bunch of new plays, it's the ability to move a player from one place to another. So as the season goes on and people start keying what you're doing, you can still run the same stuff from either a different formation or to a different player. Like we line up in X, whatever we're lining up in our base formation, and we've just been pounding you running the ball over here. Well, now can I involve another player? Like to me, can I involve another player in that? Maybe that's an RPO that we've got to involve, but we run it a different way. So like we run variations of what we call peak, some people call glance, where we're going to run some kind of run to the right and a player is going to run into the curl zone on the left, reading the backside inside linebacker. Okay. Well, a wrinkle for that week might be this week when we line up in trips, they're going to stunt off the trip side and that void is going to be open. Like that's the wrinkle. Like we didn't change the play, we changed the formation and we changed the guy who's going to get the ball. And then do I have the ability to switch them? Where now we don't really want to throw the ball to our H-back on a glance route. He's only going to get us 10 yards. We want to throw it to our 4-6 kid. So can I, in that set, call peak or glance, whatever you call it, to our A? Like, are our kids smart enough to understand those rules? Like, that to me is a game plan kind of deal. Or if people are loading up on the strong side, can we shift and move all our guys over here right before we snap it and now create an advantage for our best player to run the ball against their lesser players? Like, those to me are different ways you can take what you already have and wrinkle it up a little bit. think the other comment I had on this one was think about your tendencies. So, like, as we're going into a week, what are our tendencies? Are our tendencies in this set, this is what we do? Well, the wrinkle off of that is probably a play action or a shot play. Like, those are things that I think, I know that you're technically adding another play in, but really you're saying, guys, we're going to run it like we've been running it. But the first time we get this look, we're going to slip our receiver, across the field, or we're going to slip our wing back underneath, or whatever it is. And these might be plays that you're going, okay, we have a play similar to that, so we can just run that play, or it could be a one-time shot play. Think about like screens, teams that run screens. I think I was watching the Monday Night Football game where who was it? The Falcons right off the bat got in. They went right down the field. They faked a tunnel screen to that stud running back, and the guy slipped deep. That's a wrinkle. Like, they've probably shown a tendency when that running back's out there, they're throwing him screen. So now we're going to run screen and go. Like, they may have had that in their playbook, or that might have been a wrinkle they stuck in for the team they were playing that week. So to me, that's when I think of wrinkles. You get above 3 or 4, you're probably pushing too much. But formations, you ought to already have in your playbook. Like yesterday, we went out with our offensive line. Of course, we've had a bye week, so I probably had too much time to think. So we've had 4 or 5 little wrinkles we're putting in for the game plan. Okay, our O line was so bored because it didn't change anything for them. Like, yeah, we've got these wrinkles in, but I still do the same thing. The only guy that really was having to think a little bit was our quarterback. Like, it was a little bit on him. Every other player was like, "Yeah, we got it, coach. Move on. Like, we're good. We've been running this stuff forever." So when I think of wrinkles, that's kind of what I think of. Like, not we're going to start running inside zone week 4. That's not a wrinkle. That's
Right.
this is a whole rebuild. A wrinkle is we're going to run slip screen off of rollout this week instead of drop back. Like, that's a wrinkle. So when you're thinking of wrinkles, that's kind of what I think of. Can I move guys around? Can I build off of tendencies? Can I run a play in a different presentation, but it's the same play? Or can I run a shot play that I've already kind of built off of? So that's mine.
Yep. No, the talking about wrinkles and just looking at our jumbo package is a great way to think about this, right? We go into every week with a jumbo wrinkle. So we're going to send you 2 game films and assume you got 2 more, and you'll never see the same jumbo play. You'll never see us do jumbo the same way, which we can use on 1st and 10 or 3rd and inches. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. We're going to use that wherever we need it because it's always successful, because we're constantly adding wrinkles. That might just be, think about it. Where does most people's jumbo go? It goes either to the right or the left, and that's it, right? They're going to line it up and they're going to run power or counter to the right or left, and that's it. So even just running it the other way, Kenny, like you said, that tendency breaker, having a counterplay, that's a wrinkle for one
Mhm.
week. Now the next week you put someone in motion and do that. Now the next week you go to the left and the right, and now you have that motion and whatever. You can keep adding the ands, but these are just tags. But your kids are, like you said, they're going to get bored. They're actually doing the same stuff. Okay. I'm not talking about, like you said, it's not, hey, jumbo, we run power. Next week it's inside zone. No, why? Get everybody in the box, down block them, kick a dude, and let's
Mhm.
go. But how do you present it? Okay. Before the show, I was talking about we like to muddle huddle our jumbo. I actually was talking to Kenny about it, right? Like, Kenny, what if you muddle huddled your jumbo? Okay. So that's just yet another wrinkle, but because you don't have that chance to line, you don't even know which direction we're going to try to go to see what play we're going to run. So there's just a lot of things you can do. I think about wrinkles I love the way that we get to our 2-back set. And I think, Kenny, you have like a name for it, Mustang
Mhm.
or something. Like, right. And you're putting 2 running backs on the field. We like to just leave our 10 personnel or 11 personnel out there and get that receiver in the backfield. And we've got ways to motion him in, start him in the backfield, motion him out. He replaces. We have ways to, like, the wide receiver comes in and knocks the running back out to the flat or out to the slot receiver. We do a ton of stuff with just getting different kids in the backfield to make the defense. You have to plan all that. I assume that you are. If you're a DC and you're like, nope, that's still just trips. or that's still just 2x2, my man. I hope to play you again because personnel matters, and where we're lining kids up definitely matters all the time. So, but yeah, the wrinkles, man, they don't have to be a lot. That's what I love about the tag game, right? I've really jumped onto the bandwagon for just tagging up stuff because that's probably the best feeling as a coach is when you're putting in this fairly complex, multiple things going on, and you have a group of guys that's like, I am so bored because this does not change anything for me. That's excellent coaching, right? That's where we want to be. So, um, yeah, just think about formations and tags, ways to move kids around. You know, you talked about screens. You know, the Falcons wanting to run screens, throwing it to a different kid, right? We show the same presentation, but now instead of a tunnel screen, it's a bubble. All we've done is change who's getting the ball. We're still screened out here. We can still fake the same run away from it and throw it backside. Whatever you need to do to kind of change that up for your kids. All right, man. Let's get into this last part here. What not to do as a coach.
Yeah, a big thing on this, and I think it's kind of ironic because I'm a guy who has a system that guys can buy, but I say this right up front at every clinic I do is think that a system can save you. Like it cannot. Like you can't have this is what we do and this is how we're going to do it. Every year that thing has to evolve and adapt. I mean, you look at like the NFL is a good example. If you watch the NFL or college, whatever it is, every offensive system or defensive system is constantly evolving. Generally, they're evolving due to their own personnel. Like usually at the high school level, especially, and college level, you're evolving due to your personnel, but you're also evolving due to the different looks and the way people are playing you. And so, thinking, okay, I've got this system, and on paper it looks good, that's all I need, and I'm just going to pull it out every year and dust it off, and here we go. Well, unless you're at some kind of place where you've got studs everywhere, that's not going to work. Every year it needs to constantly be tended to, constantly be evolved, constantly be looking for what's coming. And again, like I said, I run a system. I mean, the Gun T system I think has been good and it has evolved for me. That's why I've got people ask all the time, why do you have so many books? Well, I can't just run the same stuff the same way every year and expect it to work. Like you have to constantly make little adjustments based on our personnel, the looks that we are getting, and what can be better. Like every system can have little things that can be better. But generally, like Daniel's pointed out on this episode, it's always personnel driven. Like it's always personnel driven. We have a system that we believe in. The core never changes. Old principal told me this. He said, preserve the core and change the exterior. That's kind of what you're doing. Like we're preserving our beliefs and what we're going to be good at, but we're always going to be willing and open to changing tags, adjustments, shifts, formations. And so I think that's what most systems should do. If you think I can just run this system because this is what the air raid guys did and they won a state championship, or I can just run the flexbone because Harding has won a national championship, and think that you don't constantly have to always evaluate, always adjust, you're in for problems. You need to constantly be thinking about what players we have. Hear me out on this point here, then I'll be done. You need a system. Like you need a functioning system. And there, like Daniel said, there's a lot of them out there. A lot of them out there. And if you want to adjust and adapt, have at it. But have a core belief that's going to work, and then adjust to your personnel.
Yep. I think this is one of the professions that is in the great arms race at all times, right? Because we have so many levels of this with the pros, the college level, high school level. Um, you're never going to quit with the copycatting. We're never going to quit with the base stuff. Power encounter is going to be here forever. Inside outside zone are going to be here forever. Duo trying to make a name for itself, right? So the arms race will never end. And so you've got to be able to evolve. And if you stop, if you get stagnant in, hey, I've been doing this for 50 years, look, you're probably going to win some games, but you're also going to walk into some places that you don't have a shot. And it's just because your system can't handle whatever you're getting presented on the other side of the ball. offense or defense. Doesn't matter. They're going to find a way to take advantage. Sweet. Looks like we've knocked it all out, Coach. One more time, just want to talk about the sponsors. Talk to Mark or Ryan at Ace Sports. As far as I know, Ryan's still just Oklahoma. I know a lot of you guys have been asking. I've get a lot of people hitting us up about those specific ads. So Ace Sports is great. That's what you're trying to do, some fundraising and celebrate your kids. Get your admin thinking about it right now. Show them some of those videos, those places that have those neat boards, because, man, it does add a whole extra layer to that game day experience. New books, anything coming out, Kenny?
No, I'll put out a new gun T one. I always kind of document what we're doing this year, so that will come. I mean, the most recent one's probably the QB manual or one of those O-line manuals. So if you're listening to this and you're struggling, those are good manuals, whether you run the gun T or not, because it's just a lot of drills you can run and different things you can do. And of course, Team Themes number 4 was probably the most recent book we put out.
The Team Themes Volume 4, I'm sure you've noticed, guys, but we're using a quote out of that for each episode this season. So you kind of get a taste of what you're going to be getting in that book. Just very well organized so that week by week you have a topic, and it's all laid out on how to pass that topic on to the kids. I still sit in coaches' meetings and listen to, like, hey, who's talking about whatever the topic is this week, and what are you going to talk about? And you got to have all these plans. It just kind of does that for you. Social media, you can find me on Twitter /X at Coach Chambo OK. You can email me at chamberlainfootballconsulting@gmail.com. Jump over to the Patreon. That's kind of where I'm focusing my efforts right now, is over at patreon.com /Chamberlain Football Consulting. If you need an extra brain in your coaching office this year, I've got you. That's kind of where I'm trying to focus, being a consultant. So I can help you break down your, self-scout, help you break down an opponent, help you if you need to trim down your playbook or grow it or talk about some of these tags we just talked about for the last 45 minutes or whatever. I can help you look at your system and get that thing added in. And then you can go over to YouTube at Coach Chambo OK there as well. Kenny, where can we find you, sir?
All things FB Coach Simpson. So FBCoachSimpson.com, FB Coach Simpson on Twitter. Be paying attention, too, the next month or so. We've already kind of dropped our dates for clinics, but Gun T clinics probably in the next, I don't know, when this episode comes out, it might be in a couple of weeks. We're going to start doing the early bird. We'll run that probably through December. So if you're wanting to come to a clinic, that's usually the best time to go ahead and reserve a spot. We do limit attendance, especially at a lot of the satellite clinics, just because we want to make sure you get a unique experience. We don't want 500 dudes there and you don't get hurt. So
Right.
that'll be coming out pretty soon. That'll be over at fbcoachsimpson.com.
Awesome. Podcast is at Coaching 101 Pod on Twitter. I realize this comes out in like 2 weeks, but I'm about to drop some sweet clips there from the last time I was on the show. So we'll be checking that out for kind of some clips of what we're talking about on each podcast. We want to thank you for being a listener to the Coaching 101 podcast. We hope you'll join us next week as we continue to make the complex more simple. Please consider subscribing to the show so you'll always know when the new episodes are out. We'll leave you with this. It's hard to beat someone who never gives up. No matter the situation, find a way.